Okay, so the Paul Elder model of critical thinking is a way for us to really be very precise about what critical thinking is and how it works. So the Paul Elder model is a two-part model that tries to explain what critical thinking is. So the two parts of the model here are on the left and on the right. The part on the left is analysis, and the part on the right is evaluation. These two things together make for critical thinking. Now, each one separately is going to be not critical thinking, but a component that, when it's added to, makes it critical thinking. So what we've got over here, over on the left, is this wheel. It's a circle with these little slice pies in it. And this is one way of identifying different elements of thought. So any kind of thought that you can have in your mind, whether it's, just some harebrained idea or something that you've been developing for years, maybe you're working on a story or something like that. But it's really helpful for us to be able to think of each of these little components is something that can be used to describe any thought that we might have. So every thought that we have, you can describe it using these 8 pieces. And that's what thought is. So if you were just use the left side of this Paul Elder model, what you would have is thinking. You wouldn't have critical thinking, you would just have thinking. So the stuff on the left here with analysis, this is the thinking part of critical thinking. Now, over here on the right, we've got standards. Now, the way that the standards relate to the elements of thought, the standards are like, is this good enough? And there are several different ways of talking about good enough. So is it clear enough? Is it accurate enough? Is it precise enough? Is it relevant enough to us? Is it in-depth enough? Is there enough breadth? Is it logical? Is it significant? And is it fair? All of these things are different ways that can be used to assess our thinking, okay? So what do the standards do? The standards point us to the left, and they sort of ask a question and answer it about whether it meets or does not meet a standard. So let me just start thinking of some kind of idea or some kind of thought. Let's go for current events right now. We've got this snafu going with the post office, right? So the president wanted to basically defund the post office, and he assigned a postmaster general that was going to follow through on this. And we can use these elements of thought to describe what the thinking is on the part of the Trump administration with respect to the post office. So you can think of, what is the purpose of the thinking? Why was it that Trump wanted to do this to the post office? You can actually answer this. So you could say, like, well, what do you think are some of the motivations? To undermine opponents.
Yeah.
Right. Is there any other reason why the post office was getting cut back? So saving money. Okay. So like kind of forcing a company to be lean and mean and able to do its objective with fewer dollars. It seems to be a pretty common objective of, well, every single company that's around right now, right? So now we get to ask the question. We can apply the standards to some of these purposes. Are these things clear? I would say that this one is definitely clear, but is that clear? Saving money? People might think, you know, that's not very clear because are we sure that we're actually saving money when we're removing mass mail sorters? Might be an issue there. And we've got all of these other standards that we have to choose from in order to kind of check, okay, is this answer to this purpose that was in mind for this idea from the administration? You can use the standards to see, okay, I'm describing the elements of thought. Am I doing an adequate job describing the elements of this thought? And the other thing that can happen is that these standards, they say something about the thought itself. So if something isn't very clear, then what the conclusion is a different version of thinking like this that features more clarity is going to be preferable. So we're not just saying like, oh, that's a bad idea. Let's just not do that. The critical thinking is a real nice refinement tool to sharpen the saw, so to speak. So it's something that I'm giving to you as a way for you to help each other do better in your reasoning. So if something isn't up to snuff, or we haven't been going in the correct direction, we can actually use this as a way of talking about somebody's CI paper or someone's speech. We can identify one of the thoughts that they were talking about, and we can apply one of the standards to it and say, well, do you think Julia is going to find that in-depth enough? And those are very productive discussions to have in feedback. All right, so that's just one thing I want to give to you. This is something I'm going to be referring back to and using kind of like as a way of giving feedback to you throughout the semester. Now, there is a little bit of, how should I say this, over specificity in this model. Now, I'm not exactly a big fan of saying, well, you have to use these 8 pie slices to describe someone's thought. I think it would be a little bit fascist to insist that that's the only way that you can understand someone's thinking, but it's helpful to try this out. If you can use these 8 ways to describe someone's thinking, you're actually in a really good spot. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there might not be a better way to describe someone's thinking. Similarly, on the right side, it could be that, well, is it important that we be clear all the time? Is that something that we should be doing as human beings? Is it always important to be clear and unambiguous? Are there any instances where it might actually be good for us to be less clear, a little bit more vague and ambiguous? Maybe in an artistic, expressionistic situation, the situation is going to really call upon some of these standards and not others. So something is not logical, that might not be very important when somebody is talking about their feelings. Does that make sense? So if somebody's talking about their feelings and you say, well, how logical are you being here? Do I care about logic in that sense? No, I don't. So one of the challenges of critical thinking for the critical thinker is to decide which one of these standards in a given situation is the right standard to apply, or more than one standard. Okay, so each situation is going to be calling upon a different set of requirements, because that's what communication is for. It's for us to be able to do something. I kind of feel like most of us have a sort of understanding of critical thinking. It's just that when you sit down and you look at this model and see that somebody has tried to make it super explicit, I think it's helpful that, well, there is a clarity in the fact that there are standards that we have to choose to apply to the thinking that we've described using words. That's at its foundation what critical thinking is. It's the application of intellectual standards to our elements of thought. That's what critical thinking is. We do it a lot. It's just that we don't do it very explicitly. In this class, using these vocabulary words will be very helpful for us.